City of Stevens Point Board of Water and Sewerage Commissioners meeting, recorded November 12, 2024.
After roll call, the first item of business is approving the minutes of last month's meeting. Are there any changes or additions? If not, a motion to approve is in order.
I'll move approval.
I'll second.
All those in favor signify by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. On to claims. We'll start with the water department as usual. Any questions? Okay, sounds like no questions for water. On to sewage.
I have one question, 59532. So I'm just wondering what that is.
Chris?
I've not tried it.
Presto. Oh,
Chem-
that is, a flocculant, a coagulant for our biosolids. It causes all the solids to stick together, releases the water.
Okay.
So it's just a chemical you add.
Okay, thank you.
Kind of like Pepto.
Hey.
Similar, less.
I have a question on 5468.
468, ending in 468?
I'm sorry, I transposed. 59468, the second one from.
Donahue?
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
do we have an additional series of lift stations, or is it?
Yeah, in the already approved, capital is this stuff, and this is 2 more lift stations, yeah?
Yes.
And so we're doing the engineering for those 2, along with some upgrades to the UV disinfection system as one contract with Donahue.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
But are we through all the lift stations, or are there?
No, the last group we did was 5, I believe, and this 2 will bring us to about half.
Oh.
Right.
Okay.
A little more than half, but.
Yeah, the rest are all the same type of lift station. They're all it's a can with the pumps down in the bottom of them. And then for maintenance, everything's up top. So this gets us to the point where we have 2 lift stations remaining that would have a confined space entry.
Mm-hmm.
And those have both been recently redone. So those will probably stay for quite a while yet.
Well, the new one is sure nice. I have one in my front yard I've had for 36 years, and you hardly even know it's there. Whereas the old one, you could hear it all the time, and
Yep.
they're really nice. Wow. Any other questions on sewage claims? If not, on to stormwater.
I'm just curious about 59527, the trees. That means,
This is part of a restoration following, so this could be one of 2 things. One, and you'll see in a later item, it's probably a combination of things, actually. Currently, we fund the forestry end of street tree planting at $25,000 a year, and we're proposing later in the agenda to go up to 30. And also, Parks helped out with some restoration that needed to happen after we cleared out a whole right of way, and it was really, really barren. They helped us come in with some trees to do some screening, and they just turned around and billed that to us because it was a stormwater function after all. So that's probably a combination of both of those.
okay.
Any other question on stormwater claims? The last set of claims would be for fiber. Pretty simple.
Yeah, nothing to
Yeah.
talk about. Why wasn't there anything?
Yeah, this one's usually pretty slim. You're gonna see, later on, we have a change order for a project that's gonna chew up almost half of that reserve. But other than that, yeah, we don't have to order stuff very often for.
Well, that was probably answered the question I had, because in the minutes where it says in approximately 2 weeks. Oh, no, yeah, you expect, it's higher up in number 3, we'll see a large payment regarding fiber, is that?
Yeah, so it's underway. So it fit underneath the already approved contract amount for our Forest Creek contract. So it's underway already, but since this change order is specific to fiber only, you'll see it coming up for formal approval, just because it didn't actually need it, but.
Is Forest Creek the thing north of Fleet Farm?
Yes, that's the new subdivision north of Fleet Farm, yep.
Okay, a motion to approve all 4 sets of claims is in order.
So move. Okay.
Favor signify by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign, motion carried. Water supply and distribution, Eric.
All right, good afternoon. Besides the pumping that we've reported, I have a couple extra entries. Last week, 12/12, test pumping was completed. Was about 1,000 gallons a minute, kind of what we were looking for, just north of 1,000 gallons a minute. Everything went well. I was on vacation, but according to Joel, everything was good, right?
All went well, yeah, yep. Actually, that came in probably 150 gallons a minute more than they thought we'd get too, which fits the treatment plan really well. Good news.
Nice.
Down there until we start building and designing the rest of the facility and connecting the 2 points. Next month, we're gonna see a couple of furnace repairs. Now we're getting ready for winter. There's some buildings that have heater issues, so that'll be probably on the next commission meeting. Also next week, raw pump 1 at well 11 will be installed. I don't know if you recall, but earlier in summer, there's a ton of vibration in that motor and we had to have somebody come pull it, but due to demand all summer, we couldn't have that offline for 2 days in a row to get safe back tees. So municipal well will be back next week to reinstall our brand new refurbished pump and bowls and shaft and motor. There will be a pretty heavy item on that for the water budget next month too. And then also last week we sent out a postcard to all residents and homeowners for a water lateral materials inventory. I'm not sure if any of you received it yet or not. You'll probably get it today. So the EPA required us with the revised lead and copper rule in 2021 that by 2024 we needed to have an inventory of all of our public water material lines types, and the private side would be a work in progress. So we know all of our public side materials through our records and GIS. Yeah. So October 16, 2024 was the deadline to get that to the DNR for approval. But by November 16th, we had to notify everybody that has an unknown type of material that we don't have record of via postcard. So we created a postcard a couple of weeks ago with a QR code and a website, or a link to our website that has more information. So if you see it, that's what it is. If you get any questions from people because you're on this board commission, direct them to us here. Right.
Was there a great number of unknowns?
Yeah, on the private side, we're about 5,700 laterals, 5,700.
Traditionally, we didn't keep track of records past our infrastructure, so we've got record on what our stuff is, but from the shut-off that's in the boulevard to the house, we wouldn't have kept track of for any real good reason until
Department.
till Flint.
And that's not
Yeah.
just us, every municipality.
Right, and
is under
so,
the same.
so they're putting this in place now to start the process of that record keeping. So there's not like we're late or anything like that. We're actually, record keeping wise, I'd say we're well ahead of the game.
Mhm.
But this gives people the ability to self-report or to call us and set up an appointment and we'll take a look, that type of thing.
Wouldn't the folks that changed out meters have noted the material coming in?
We do now.
Yeah, we do. The last couple
Now?
of years we have.
Mhm.
Last couple of years?
Yep.
Yeah, we've been starting to do that.
Yeah.
What about when they do work on the sewer water mains,
Correct.
Yeah.
would they
Mhm.
do it then?
Yeah. When we take everything out in the right of way on a full reconstruct, what we connect to is noted.
Yeah.
So that's why there's 5,700 of them unknown and not 9,000 of them unknown, or
Gotcha.
what it is, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah. But that'll be an annual notice that we have to give out to unknown material lines too. So we might couple that with the CCR come July.
They're not concerned after the meter, within the house.
No, right. What we report is, our side of the shut off, their side of the shut off, right? Yep.
A lot lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
Any other questions of Eric? If not, we'll go on to the scope of services with, Bartingale Mechanical.
Yeah, thanks. So this is for the utility garage across the street. The write-up there is in, your packet. I will note that, so the correct dollar amount is actually the one in numbers here, not the one in writing. The one in writing is less, but I did confirm that it's the higher one. So our building management system across the street, needs upgrading. And we've had issues with it since it was new in 2018, and we've got better luck with the system that exists at Transit. And so we're trying to bring those two systems together, manage them together, have one license for that software, stuff like that. It's going to be better. And since that has to get upgraded anyway, and we're having repeated mechanical issues with our air handler, what we thought is we'd do it now. So rather than upgrade the software and then get a different software, we're just going to let that old software die, go away. We have some equipment into place so that the new software, and it's as close to open source as you can get. It's called Tritium by Niagara, or Niagara by Tritium, one of the two. So that they work together. So, you know, there's very few people typically in our whole operation who ever get on that software. And so once you start playing with it and you know how to use it, it'd be nice if they could, you know, help each other out across there and across here. So the scope of services is really to accomplish two things: fixing the mechanical issues we have and upgrading our building management system, which was a software issue.
Do you know when the work would be completed by?
Oh boy, I feel relatively quick. We had a meeting with them, was that just last week? And they basically said, we can start now type thing. The thing is, I don't know how long it takes. I do know that there's some programming to be done. I imagine they'd get that done inside of a week when they start working on it. The mechanical stuff, there's probably some parts ordered, so I would say in the next couple months for sure.
By the first quarter of next year, probably.
Yeah, I'd say so for sure, yeah.
Okay, so we need to, go ahead.
Just under the 5-year software management agreement, that says that, you know, you get the software upgrade, but you're going to pay for the labor. Is that, I mean, you know, like when you get something new, you always get this big batch of upgrades and,
Yeah.
and then you know,
The-
you're going to get charged every time.
The labor in this case inside of that, I think, is to take the programming and switch it to the new system. And then after the 5 years is up, it's kind of the same type of thing where if everything's working okay, we can let it go. But if we want to stay current, which we do, this is another reason why we want to split this cost with Transit and then use it on other buildings that develop more complex building management issues. So yes, acknowledged, and I did talk to him about that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first 5 years, okay.
Yeah, right.
After that, understood.
Yep.
Other questions? If not, a motion to approve the $29,909 estimate is appropriate.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor signify by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Same sign, motion carried. Implementation of lateral repair program.
So this is a one-sheeter, very straightforward. For those of you who were here last month, you'll remember I had some sheets I brought forward to kind of explain the issue. And if I were to kind of summarize the issue again, it comes down to these enormous unexpected expenses that a resident see when all of a sudden the lateral line in the roadway is needing repair or replacement. Oftentimes, repair can be a gamble if it's not very, very clear that a repair will do the job. So you can get up to, you know, $9,000, $10,000 in replacement costs if you're fortunate enough to be in a part where it's, you know, paved road, which we are, curb gutter, which isn't everywhere, sidewalk, which isn't everywhere, your driveway apron, which isn't everything, but they're common enough. When you talk about the downtown area here, there's a lot of pavement that gets replaced, and that's why this gets expensive. Looking into this a little bit, there is precedent for this in other communities. In fact, the last one that I found was Racine does it. They do it through their taxes, and it is far higher of a fee. They collect $65 a year per resident for this purpose, which comes down at $525 a month, which would be over, that'd be $50-75 on a quarterly bill. That's a lot. I think that our really aggressive approach to infrastructure here is what keeps us from having such a high percentage of failure rate and our good soils. So I guess at the end, where we landed on kind of a really JV actuarial data type thing was about $189 a month. And I think that that's something that if you talk to any of the last dozen people who had an unexpected lateral line replacement, they'd really like to pay $189 a month instead to ensure that they don't incur those costs. So that's the proposal is, I guess at the end of these discussions is under the 13XX, I'll let city attorney and city clerk number this appropriately, but this would be inside of chapter 13, which basically it just establishes a fee that is then restricted to these uses and other water affordability issues, and we'll go from there and cover those expenses in the right way for lateral line replacement. There certainly will be some development to this program in the future, but starting off right here is where I think we need to be.
I think it makes perfect sense. I mean, it's just a basic concept of insurance that everybody pays to, 30 years ago when having to replace a lateral that was deteriorated was $1,200, it was no big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But 10,000?
Yeah.
Big deal.
One of the other things that really gets me too is the unpredictability of how long after somebody goes through this are we going to replace that road in total. So somebody may pay $9,000 and 3 years later we do the whole right away. And it just seems like there's an equity issue there.
Yep. And
And so this way everybody's kind of on the same page. And this would be, as noted in here, for customers who are in the residential rate class only, which includes single-family houses and duplexes, but not threeplexes and up. And I think there's some logic behind that because a lot of times those are owned at a corporate level or LLC at least, and they don't, this is available to the same folks that we do payment plans for and stuff like that. So there's some consistency there.
So how would this work then? Like, the utility says, oh gee, you need a lateral line replacement, and we will
So,
work for you?
so right now, say you have a problem,
Yeah,
and by way of investigating it, you end up calling us, because a lot of times what people will do is end up calling a roto-rooter or something, because sewer's backing up in their basement. Roto-rooter says, your line's collapsed, I can't clean that out. You end up calling us, we do some investigating, we discover, yep, it's bad, it's in the roadway. We do that work. The issue is right now, we bill that work.
yeah.
So this would prevent us from having to bill it, assuming the premium, if you will, it's not insurance, but assuming the premium's appropriate, there will be a surplus or a fund balance that grows there. So when these happen, we transfer that money to cover that on behalf of the owner.
So we would keep a separate fund balance
Yes.
so that we know whether we're positive or negative at any given month.
Right.
It's a good idea.
So, I was just, so you'd cover that balance in full of the
Yeah.
repair?
Mm-hmm. That's the intent. And I think that there are some things ahead that we need to consider. Like if our occurrences outpace this fund, well, then we either need to adjust that fund or start saying we're covering 75% or whatever it is, but that'll be something that happens here. Yeah. I think this is a really good time of year to get into this too, because over the winter months we're slower on these because you don't want to put in temporary pavement if you can avoid it. And so, that kind of thing. So we'll build a little bit of fund by the time we get to using it, hopefully.
Yeah, I like it.
So this is only for that part of the lateral that's in the right of way,
Yes.
not between the lot line and the house.
So spoiler alert, coming up in the future, I think that we will be able to make some financial resources available to people for that portion also. But I do want to see how this performs.
Yeah.
And then this is probably where we get involved with a third party, but down the road.
Okay.
Start here, start simple.
Carl?
So when we do a road replacement right now, are we charging for that lateral
Yeah.
to the property line?
No, see, that's the other thing that kind of, what I was just saying is that when we do a full reconstruct, we replace the laterals all the way to the right of way at our expense. Part of the reason is they're mostly in our way anyway. When you think about this sewer down the middle, and then you got water on one side, storm on the other, when you're putting in storm, you got to clip off all the laterals as you go through anyway. So you're gonna take out what you need to put the main in, and instead of leaving that little bit there, we go to the right of way, so it's done appropriately, so that we don't end up digging up road for old pipe. Yeah, and we do pay for that, and that's another kind of equity issue. Yeah.
Yeah.
How many per year? You said a dozen earlier.
Well, we were talking about this, and you know, it seems like the frequency's on the rise, and so I'd say we're probably in that like dozen plus is where we're comfortable with, and I guess we need to have an experience level, right, or whatever insurance companies call that, to know. But I think this gets us ahead, just eking ahead. And you know, it could be that, okay, it's $1.69 a month. Well, okay. At some point, I'd rather be a little bit high on that, because our expenses are going to go up very rapidly in the construction end, like they have for the last, you know, well, let's call it since COVID, and before that. But if our frequency is climbing too, that means we're going to have a kind of a big ask on this. So I'm assuming, and what I'm hoping is that this rate is enough for a few years, and then we can look at it and adjust it. Yeah.
Or down, or
Yeah,
okay.
Did the calculations to determine the 189 per month?
I did.
Okay.
After conversations. Yeah.
Now, you're obviously going to explain this to the city council when it gets adopted.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a similar explanation that then goes out, or is it included in the bill? Because all of a sudden,
Yeah.
what's this extra fee for?
A couple different things. I think that we should do a bill insert, but I think we'll also mention it in the CCR, which is going to be a twice annual thing now, starting our consumer confidence report. But it's definitely appropriate to put a little insert in the bills to say, so you know. Yep.
Sure. Then in the paragraph, under the, just above the rates, it says excess funds will be directed to other utility programs. What's that?
That's what's coming in the future. So, like Ray was saying, that line doesn't stop in the right of way. Right now, I think what we're doing is recognizing we're collecting this to cover the portion of the right of way. If this dollar amount ekes past level, if we're in the black a little bit, I think that we can start working through some of the, can we make low interest loans available? Can we make some grants available to get there? But I just didn't want to have to modify the ordinance language again when we get there, because it could be relatively quick.
Yeah, it just seems like that's a pretty broad statement that you could drive through it.
It absolutely is.
Other utilities.
It's a broad statement through ordinance that's at your,
with this.
yeah, right, but that's at your discretion, right? So none of that happens till we have a plan for it here.
Okay, if there are no other questions, a motion to approve is in order.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Same sign, motion carried. I think that's a good idea. On to sewage treatment operations, Chris.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Wastewater staff has been working diligently at getting everything prepped for winter and cold weather, if some chance that actually does arrive. We should be ready for it. As you can see from our data that's on the charts, we did have a good month. Everything made all of our permit limits. So if anybody's got any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
I guess I did have a question on October 23rd and 24th. It did look that suspended solids really were out of the normal performance level. We were,
and if you look at BODs, they will be as well. During that cold, like I was saying, we're getting everything ready for cold winter or cold weather. So we had to put one of our aeration basins back online that had been offline. And in the process of doing that, we had a slight plant upset that we, were able to head off and get back going the right direction.
Uh-huh.
Any further questions of Shane?
Let's see.
Chris?
Further on the charts there was a significant drop in phosphorus over the summer months outside of our typical performance level, and then, you know, we're back to kind of what would be the normal.
There
range.
was a significant drop, and I would imagine that drop will continue. Obviously, like I said, we had a slight upset in October, so that's why that number's higher
Yeah.
in October. The way we were running the lab, our old limit of detection was 0.27. So the lowest number we could report was 0.27. We changed some things in the lab to allow us to get our numbers lower. So now we range anywhere from 0.14 to 0.19 on our limited detection. So now we can report those numbers lower. That's why if you look in July is down around 1 or 0.1.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's because we were below that actually, but that's as low as our testing allows us to go. Whereas before in May, you can see that we were at like 0.3 or just above 0.3, while the lowest we could have been that month was 0.27, was the lowest number we could report. So by adjusting how we do things in the lab, we're able to actually now get more accurate at the really low level.
Mhm.
Obviously with our permit limit where it is, there was no need to be below that. But we just wanted to make sure we could get better numbers, so we're consistently under that 0.27.
August of '23, it looks like it was right about 2.7, and October too.
Right, and those were
Yeah, those
basically
are-
the whole, so if you scroll up, Joel,
Yeah.
if you go to one more, that one. You'll look at, here, let me see this one. If you look at this column here, yeah, you can see there are no numbers that are below 0.2, 0.28, 0.23. So our average was 0.442. There have been a lot of months where these numbers are all 0.274 or close to it, where that's what our number is because that's as low as we can report, because that's as low as we were able to test down to. By changing some procedural things, we took that 0.274 and brought it down to around that 0.1 to 0.15, somewhere.
Does
That's
this
nice.
change as the regulations change? Weren't we talking at one point that we?
They were talking,
Phosphorus?
right, and we do have that new regulation. Our limit actually, our monthly limit didn't change, our month or our 6-month rolling average changed. So it actually came down to like about a 0.57. It's actually based on pounds, not milligrams per liter, but roughly 0.57 is the number that we're looking to stay under for a 6-month average. So, but if we go, you know, basically 0.93, which is what the bars on the graph here show, that's our monthly limit. So as long as over a 6-month average, we aren't in this range for an average, then we're below permit. We're within our permit.
Were you getting some other, regular than your regular testing, but were you testing with other means to say, well, geez, you know, we know we're hitting this 2.7 as our downward limit of the calibration, but then did you have other tests performed and say, geez, we're really performing at much lower level? Was this a surprise?
No, this was something that if your limit is 0.57, a 0.2, but you can see obviously in 22, 23, you know, kind of in here, we're consistently above that 0.3. So we weren't hitting that 0.274 a lot. You'd hit it maybe 1 sample out of 12 a month. And at that point, it's not worth making a big change to try to bring that down. But for a good lab, when you start hitting that low level a lot, obviously our number's lower than that. So let's get the lab to the point that we can test that much lower. So we ended up
This
having
change
to.
was following a lab audit.
No, this was just on our own saying, hey, we're consistently hitting this number, so let's try to improve and get it so we can see what that number actually is. So we can test lower.
Right. Okay.
Thank you.
Any other questions of Chris? If not, we'll go on to the construction and maintenance report.
Sure, I just have a couple of highlights that I'd like to talk about, I guess. Unfortunately, the guys are fixing a water main break this morning, today. There was a company doing soil borings on Patch Street and for us, for a future project. And yeah, there's
Found it.
they found it all right, so.
Oh, there's water down there.
Yeah, so the main is working there, yeah, so, that's what they're working on today. Other than that, we've got a larger, effort being made to clean, a 48-inch diameter storm sewer on Patch Street from, Church to Michigan. That whole run is a 48-inch storm that was found to be roughly half full of sand and causing some of the drainage issues that happen at Michigan Avenue.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's been a pretty big project, coordinating both of the back trucks on like a rotating schedule. And removing a lot of debris from that big of a pipe, so.
Is that a gravity flow pipe?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Is that where the underpass pumps into though, or is that?
No.
Not Michigan, Division Street does, further to the west, but not
But we're
Michigan.
upstream of that.
Yeah, correct, yeah.
Here's the underpass, which collects this area,
Yeah.
and it pumps up here and up into this storm. But we're talking about down here, and we're gonna have some talks with county because the really, really, uniform consistency of the
I
sand
know,
in that
but
pipe.
where else would it be coming?
Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, such a large amount as well.
When I would bicycle to the university, man, the amount of sand that
yeah.
comes out of that site.
Oh, you can even see it on the aerial here. Yeah.
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 Yep. So we're gonna look through our stormwater stuff and see what we can
Mhm.
kind of act on there.
Long conversation.
Yeah.
It's well rehearsed though. I mean, being on the siltation fencing side at the university,
Mhm.
just how concerned everybody is,
Yeah.
Well, and
see
we're
that.
almost halfway through and we've got 40 loads. So that big giant truck with the big tank on the back, 40 loads of that
Mhm.
out. So we've
Yeah.
at least 40 more to go.
So it's a large effort, but I mean, after completing it, the performance of that storm will be far, far greater. And that kind of ties into the project that they were soil boring for in the future, making upgrades to the underpass there, so.
Do you have any idea how long it took to get that full stuff?
No, it was definitely many, many years because, the issue with the underpass kind of when it's that pipe that actually surcharges, when you go down here. Did I go too far?
Yeah.
Oh. Well, right in this intersection, we have a manhole on the main, it's this one, that throws its lid off because the water's coming back so aggressively and that floods the underpass. And you can see it's not even connected with this, but they're different systems. And so the inability of this pipe to carry water effectively is what's creating a lot of that issue. And in looking at it, it's got a ton of debris and sand and debris in it. So part of what we need to do is get that really, really clean so that we can have a couple of really wet weather experiences to see if it still does that, or if we have other things that we need to model and reconstruct and stuff like that.
Well, I was just not, like, if it took 20 years versus 5 years or whatever.
I'll say in my experience, it's been getting progressively worse over
Yeah.
all of the years
Yeah.
that I've witnessed it, so 20 years probably isn't unreasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would it have been televised at
Well,
any point along the way?
so we kind of, as a department here, took over televising of the sanitary sewers in '08. And then responsibility of the storm sewer system in 13. And we didn't put a big priority on televising storm sewers in a lot of those years because we still had a lot of sanitary sewers to televise and keep track of. So we have put a camera down there. I don't know when the first time was, but recently, which is what made us realize we need to clean it because we can't get a camera down there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
driving through 2 feet of sand, yeah.
That's really
4-foot wide pipe, I mean, my gosh,
Yeah.
that's a lot of volume.
It's a lot, yeah.
And we really realized it, I mean, once you physically crawled in there to start inspecting it more, it was very apparent that, you know, we really had to do something. And I know there was an effort made a number of years ago, I don't know exactly when it was, to try to clean it out, but with better equipment today and practices and everything, it's really going quite well, actually. So. Mhm.
This discharges below the dam?
Yeah, this is the one that you cross the little bridge in the green circle right here, and that's the,
By the dog park.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's the dog park.
Yeah,
Here's the end of it's the outfalls right here,
yeah. So
and that's the bridge on the green circle trail.
would it get to the point yet that siltation is visible at the outflow, or is that?
Sure, yeah. I mean, right now we're focusing east of Church, but we're gonna have some downstream work to do too. Yeah.
Any other questions of Shane? If not, we'll go on to the change order for the Forest Creek contract.
Yeah, so as previously mentioned, we change ordered the fiber work that's needed in a number of parts of town into this contract because there was already an approved contract. Let me find it here. This was actually, I signed this last month. It was after our commission meeting. But the change order amount is $190,000. The dollar amount was wrong in the written up one. So about 200 of the fund balance you saw in fiber there. However, some of this is being covered through other means. There's 2 parks projects in here. There's one that's going to involve transit. So I'm thinking about 60,000 of this actually is paid for through other means. It'll be reimbursable. Yeah. Yep.
Is there a limit on change orders?
15% of the contract total. And when we go to, Public Works and Utilities, or one or both, and then council, we get the contracts approved with the 15% in it, so that as projects change, there's not a waiting cycle because of meeting cycles. And the Forest Creek project was going and had gone very well. So there was room in that contract, and the contractor had the ability and the willingness to do it. So we executed that through change order.
Additional questions? Not a motion to approve the change order?
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor signify by the sign of aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Stormwater Utility Assistance for street trees.
Yeah, I think we talk about this almost annually. Generally, there's a little report near the end of the year, the beginning of the year, detailing 2 funds that we give money to out of stormwater. One is for street sweeping activities, and that's $70,000 a year. That we actually just cut a check to the city because they record it as a revenue in their budget. It wasn't that way originally. It just happened to get switched that way during a budgeting session, let's call it 15 years ago or so. And then the other one is for street trees. So that's 25,000. That started out at 20,000. And came up, there's the memo. It came up in a staff meeting not too long ago, and I understand it came up in that staff meeting because of Alder Guthrie inquiring about it, and she's on today. And it has been a really good program. There's really well-documented cases where a very healthy street tree program helps stormwater in a number of ways, not just stormwater quality, but also quantity. Tree canopies hold a lot of water, so it'll cut back on actually the kind of the immediate flood impact that a big rainfall can have. So I thought it was appropriate, so I brought it to you guys for action to see if you'd raise that to 30,000 annually. I think it's a good idea.
If we plant more trees, does that mean we can downsize our storm infrastructure?
Oh, yeah, probably. No. So, you know, that's a really, boy, I could spin on that question for a long time, because the way we model everything, I am sure that some component of that model does have a tree canopy component to it, but I don't know how significantly you can change your model based on 0 trees versus Tree City USA, you know. I don't know that answer because we don't perform those models in-house. I hope that's still on my mind next time we do a model, but no, I would say no, we're still going to model them the same, and so the infrastructure may be accounting for it fully and may not already in the model, but either way, the model will stay the same.
Okay.
Subscribe to, you know, a couple different native plant social sites. And one of recently, I think it was the city of Neenah, got really hammered for their street tree program because they were planting non-natives, ginkgos, which don't have,
We do too.
which don't have a, you know, supporting any of the native birds or insect populations, because I know that there are ginkgos in our mix, and I don't know if we have a non-native policy in our street tree.
I'd be speaking out of school a little bit there. I will tell you, I know that Todd Ernster, the city forester, he's got a huge portfolio of trees he goes to when he's considering them, and we don't engage in the selection of those. I think he does a great job. I can certainly have the conversation with him and see about native tree policy or not. He's here on Tuesdays usually. I'll ask. Yeah.
I mean, they got hammered. People showed up and.
Yeah, not sure. Good thing to, let's see, we have another person entering.
All right, next agenda item is Steward Safe Water Award. Joel?
We need to vote on this?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if I could get a motion on that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Motion's in order?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign, motion carried.
Well, this one's exciting, and you've seen this, so maybe you can pass it down so everybody can see.
Oh.
But at our recent annual meeting of the Wisconsin section of AWWA, Paul was awarded with the Stewards of Safe Water Award. As you can see there, it's given to somebody who's serving in a role like this with more than 10 years, and so your other two will be coming shortly. But there aren't a lot of conferences that go by or events that we go to where we don't get to talking about our commissions, and I can tell you with a lot of pride that that you guys are always held in high regard, and so this award's a very deserving one, and just congratulations and thank you.
Well, you write an awful flattering memo, so thank you very much, Joel.
Absolutely, yeah.
Very good, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
Anything else on the director's report?
Nothing.
Over 30 years though?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I think it's close to 35. I was still vice president at
Congratulations.
American Savings and Loan when I first joined the commission.
I think the binder that goes back that far is probably in the basement. Also, yeah.
All right, anything else for director's reports, folks?
Nothing on the report.
Motion to adjourn is in order.
Move to adjourn.
All those in favor signify by the sign of aye.
Aye.
Aye, all same sign. Motion carried.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.